Cassidy Werner from Ravensburger, as you can see from the array of titles behind her. Hi, Cassidy. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Good. Really well. Mostly because I have a pairing of Marvel Villainous. We have like a Marvel Villainous mirror match here, where we can face off just with the characters in the box. And there's one on the demo table at our demo studio. So we were hoping you could give an overview of what the world is. I mean, people might be familiar, of course, with the Marvel Universe, but what are we looking at in the box? And then who are we? What are we doing? How do we work towards what we want to do?
So in Marvel Villainous, unlike in other games, you are the bad guys. So it is good to be bad. You are taking the role of one of 5 Marvel villains. So this box has Thanos, Hela, Ultron, Killmonger, and Taskmaster. And each of them has a different evil thing tied to their storyline that they are trying to accomplish first to win. So on your turn, you take, that's a villain guide. Villain guides explain the strategy and the components and help you kind of figure out how best to do that. So on your turn, you will take a Marvel figure, Killmonger there, move them to one of the locations in your domain, and those icons tell you what you can do. So you can draw power from the center of the from the vault there. You can play cards. You can vanquish heroes. You have a villain deck off to the side. That's full of allies like extension that are generally helpful. You also have a fate. Unlike in other villainous games, this fate deck is combined. So you can have several different heroes facing the same villain. So Captain America, for example,
the white
fight
deck
Thanos,
is a combined deck.
Killmonger. We made that change to better reflect the shared universe. So in previous versions of Villainous, the Disney version, each of the characters is anchored in their own movie and their own storyline. So we changed things up a little to the fact that they share a universe and their story. You'll notice some fake cards like this have no symbol down at the bottom. Face and are equally effective against everyone. You will have a villain symbol down here. Those are most of, you can still play them against everyone, but specific villain. So this is Black Panther, for example, he's most effective against Killmonger. The Black Widow there, she's a common fate card, and then Found by the Avengers, that's a Taskmaster card. We also have a new kind of card called Events. Here, they'll be the ones aligned horizontally there. Now, events work a little bit differently. They're a new kind of card in Marvel Villainous, and these inflict a penalty on villains when they're active. And they give a reward when they are defeated. And they are defeated by having allies played to them. So this, for example, in Protected Vibranium is a global event. Villains can work together to defeat that one by playing allies to it. There's also targeted events like Sacrifices Must Be Made or Conquer Valhalla. These are specific to different villains. So Hela would have to defeat Conquer Valhalla on her own. Thanos would need to defeat Sacrifices Must Be Made. And then Protected Vibranium and Lockdown at the Raft are global events that everyone would face together.
Okay. Because no other villain cares if Hela is hampered in what she's trying to do. They're like,
not
yes.
really, no.
No.
We're not very compassionate.
They're very selfish. We are, yes. We're very selfish. So each villain has their individual goal that they're trying to do. Can you summarize those?
Sure. So Hela is trying to collect soul marks and allies at Odin's Vault. She needs a combination of 8 soul marks and allies on her domain to win. So she has different cards that deploy these soul marks to heroes. And then she needs to defeat them in order to collect those soul marks. She can also play allies at Odin's Vault, which is a location in her domain there.
Okay.
Thanos wants to collect all of the Infinity Stones, and he's to play. He's one of the more complex zones that we've introduced. Sorry, I'm getting an echo, so if I pause, that's why.
Yep.
Infinity Stones are deployed to other villains' domains. So unlike in previous editions of Villainous, where you could not interact with other villains, Thanos has to interact with other villains in order to collect stones. So they'll appear, there are these tiles there, in other players' domains attached to their allies. Thanos needs to deploy one of his allies to their domain, defeat them, and then he brings it back. And if you flip the cards over there, they go into his gauntlet. And they become specialty cards. And this is another kind of new card in Villainous. You play a specialty card, and these make your villain more powerful. So they're used, you can use these once per turn. They're an activated ability. And you can see if you activate them, you get to do something cool. So you can use all of these once per turn. And once he's collected all 6, he wins.
Okay. So his powers will definitely snowball over the course of the game.
Yes, Infinity Stones mess with everyone, as they should.
That's right. Reflecting the course of the movies. Yes.
Next is Killmonger. Killmonger needs to defeat Claw first. There's Claw's a rival card. It's a new kind of card in this that's only in Killmonger's deck. There's his domain there. So he'll need to defeat Claw, which is one of the card tiles. And then he'll need to defeat Black Panther, take control of the mines, and then deploy explosives to other players' domains. So if you're familiar with Killmonger, he wants Wakanda to kind of take control of the world and remake the world the way he thinks it should be. So he's trying to deploy explosives to do that. So you can see Claw there, a rival card, control the mines, which he gains after defeating Black Panther. If Black Panther comes back into his domain for whatever reason, if you flip that card over, it says the mines are lost. So he'll need to defeat Black Panther again in order to get control of those.
Okay. Again, sort of replicating the story of the movie itself.
Yes.
Okay.
And then Taskmaster. If you're not familiar with Taskmaster, he's going to appear in the next Black Widow movie whenever that releases, whenever it's safe for us to go see movies again. Taskmaster is a strategic genius, so he is trying to deploy allies in different locations with a strength of 5 or more. So he has a bunch of allies in his deck, as well as ways to power them up. There's permanent strength and there's temporary strength. Either one will count towards making his allies strong. And then he has several different cards like redeploy, which allow you to move those allies around the game. So there's some allies there. If you have read the comics, you might be more familiar with some of these.
Mm-hmm.
And then the card redeploy is very helpful. Our magic hands are trying to find it for us. Thank you, magic hands. There it is.
Okay.
And then finally, there is Ultron. Ultron needs to upgrade. So it's a little bit different, more of an objective based on what's in the comics as opposed to the movie. Ultron is trying to upgrade. So you have different tiles, and you need to pay certain costs to flip those over, and eventually you'll reveal the age of Ultron to win. So this is his domain. You can see some of the locations that you might be familiar with from the movie, but more likely if you read the comics, you'll recognize. Ultron has my favorite portrait too. I think that's really cool.
The favorite portrait or the favorite figure?
Both, actually. This is figure. We did something a little bit different. If you played the previous editions of Villainous, you might be more familiar with the jewel tone pieces. In this one, we wanted to change them up a little bit to better reflect the flavor of this. So you can see the final result here. We tried all sorts of things. We went through different silver content in the pieces. We actually tried to wash at some point. So this is not a final figure. This is a factory sample. So you can see the kind of wash that we tried that we wound up not going with. So that's one of the figures that we tried beforehand for Thanos.
Yeah. It's interesting.
So
definitely
that is
different. I was
Yeah,
going to say
there's the
definitely
final
different flavor to Marvel Villainous than Disney Villainous. Just with.
I'm sorry?
There's definitely a different flavor, both with the look of the pieces, look of the art. It's a bit more intense, I guess I would say.
Yeah, it's more appropriate to this license, I think. We had a
Okay.
review recently, I think, from IO9 that said this is a good game for if you thought Disney Villainous was too nice.
And want it to be better.
Yes, there's a
Okay.
lot more interaction with this since you do have villains and deploying their allies to each other's domain. Thanos has to mess with other villains just as a result of how his character works and how the Infinity Stones are deployed. Hela will be going after other people's heroes sometimes to try to get the soul marks. There are Ultron's upgrade cards, so you can see that he's upgrading over time.
Okay. And again, snowballing as he goes, getting more powerful along the way.
Yeah, the specialty cards are great for that. It allows you to evolve over the course of the game.
Okay.
So, like Hela, for example, has a card called Raise the Dead that allows her to play certain allies from her discard. The specialty cards will have the pink text at the bottom. Magic hands. There we go.
All right.
And for those familiar with previous versions of Villainous, there are no condition cards in this because we have increased interactivity anyway. Condition cards were a card that let you do something based on other players' actions. There are no condition cards in this.
Because you are more directly interacting with other people through the use of allies and movement.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Midgard Serpent, things you might be more familiar with from the comics or the mythology, perhaps, of Hela.
So someone in chat, June B, was asking as well, can this be combined with the previous Villainous?
Not officially. We didn't design it that way because it didn't really make sense to us thematically. Additionally, because we wanted to change this up a little bit for the flavor, like you have the combined fate deck, you have the increased interactivity, we didn't design it to be compatible. That said, I know of at least 3 different homebrew systems that people are working on now to make them work. And nothing really just stops a determined gamer. So we're looking forward to seeing what the community comes up with.
That's right. Cruella, Thanos. Yeah, you can combine as you wish. Be an interesting pairing.
That would make licensors cry inside, so we can't officially do that. But
That's right. Someone Iron Spy as well mentioned, is this spoilers for people who haven't seen the movies? Especially with Taskmaster, we have some idea of what's going on. There's no spoilers, just general use of the character. Okay. Yes, because who knows when we will actually be able to see Black Widow.
I think October was the last date, but like with many movies, it's probably had a bazillion dates.
Okay. Do you want to do something in particular? You want to lead Magic Hands, Nikki's Magic Hands, through a turn or two? Or did you want to talk more generally about the game or how it came to be? You mentioned working with licensors. I don't know if there's anything you can talk about in terms of sort of the special challenges of bringing a game like this to market.
We don't have enough time for the challenge of bringing a game like this to market. But we could go through a sample turn with Killmonger.
Sure.
Magic Hands, draw 4 cards from Killmonger's villain deck there. 2, 3, and 4. And then maybe just get 3 power from the vault in the center there to give yourself some options. And put those fire. There we go. So we'll pick up the 4 cards. So on your turn, you would move Killmonger to one of the locations in your domain. So whichever the squares there. These are the cards we have available to us. You can see the cost of playing them up at the top there. That's how many power it takes to play the card. Nice. So you'd move there, and then those different icons tell you what you do. So it looks like we would collect 3 power. Cool. We'd have the ability to play 2 cards as long as we had the power to pay for them. And then we could discard the cards. That's a way to refresh your deck. So taking a look at our cards, assuming we're starting with 6 power, which gives us a lot of options. If we had any meddlesome heroes in our domain that were blocking our actions, we could use Killmonger's Fury to get rid of those. Specialty cards are never a bad thing, so we might do specialty cards that we see there. And then if we had any allies in play, Overpower would let us place strength tokens on them. There's permanent strength and temporary strength. Permanent strength is represented by the strength tokens that we have there in the vault. And then temporary strength is granted by things like items that will say that they grant a temporary strength bonus to folks.
Right.
It's one of the challenges of creating a game like this is all of the different artwork that you see. Every single card has to be approved by Marvel. So we go through a very long approval process for sketches, then we get back red lines, then we have to go through the coloring phase and then do another round of approvals. Sometimes we have to resubmit things. So appreciate all of that artwork that you see. There are hours and hours that went into every single card.
And so as well with artwork, with the Villainous line, typically you went with stills. At least that's what it seemed to be. And in here you don't have movie stills, but instead created artwork for the game. Was there a reason for that?
Yeah, we had a little bit more freedom. We're actually having a panel at Gen Con on the art of Marvel Villainous, if you want to hear in detail. But like for example, the back of Killmonger's card, we have all of those cool designs on the card backs. We had to change the text because they did not like the text that we had there in the Wakandan language.
Okay. Interesting.
In Magic,
Nikki,
I don't know if you have the rule book there, but there is a surprise on the back of the rule book. Yeah, so you can see the books there with the Wakandan text. We had to get all of that approved as well.
I can show the rule book right here.
Right back
Oh,
the rule book.
it's got it as well.
There you go.
Teasers for the future.
Maybe. If there are villains you would like to see in particular, feel free to let us know.
That's right. Disney Villainous definitely has done a good job of expanding that world and bringing in lots of different characters. Marvel has a large catalog from which to draw, although typically the villains all die at the end of their films. So you just
Not in our game. No one dies in our game.
Okay, not in your game. No, only in the films. That's how it works out. Yes. So Marvel Villainous debuts today, I believe, at retail outlets.
I understand some people got their pre-order copies early. Good for you. I'm glad it's out in the wild.
Okay. So we have about another 5 minutes. I don't know if you want to talk about what else is coming from Ravensburger or something new here. I know you've got other recent releases behind you, the Back to the Future, Dice Through Time, got the Wonder Woman line. Wonder Woman.
Sure. We have 2 other games coming out today. We have Hocus Pocus, which is a cooperative game. You can see here. We're trying to ruin the Sanderson, which is potion 3 times before the sun comes up. It's a really cute, cooperative, light, thematic game. And if any questions pop up in chat during this time, feel free to interrupt me so we can continue to talk about Marvel. And then we also have WWB, Royal Rumble Legends, WWE Legends Royal Rumble card game. And that mimics a Royal Rumble. So you are superstars fighting against each other. And as people get thrown over the top rope, more come in. So you get to play several different iconic superstars as you go through the game. And it supports 2 to 10 players. So
2 to
it's
10.
a fun, simple, for when we can have big groups of people, good game for that.
Okay. Is that all individual play, or do you team up as you get larger groups of people around the table?
Certain cards will allow you to do certain things. So I think there is a team up card where you can team up to throw someone over the top rope. But generally, it's individual play. Okay.
2 to 10 is a unique range, I think, for that type of game. Okay.
Yeah, there are 30 different superstars that you can play in the game.
Okay. So in recent years, I know Ravensburger definitely seems, at least the U.S. branch, seems like it's specialized much more in IP games. If you look, most of what's behind you there, actually all of it, except for Castles of Burgundy, is licensed.
Yep, there's Castles of Burgundy hiding.
Yes, yes. Is that intentional, or is that a reaction to the market, or how has the product line developed over time along those lines?
It kind of evolved over time. Ravensburger acquired Wonderforge, which did primarily licensed games. So that's where our Seattle studio is based. And because of our proximity to some of the major licensors, it just makes sense for us to focus on more of the licensed titles. And then in Ravensburg, our development hub there focuses more on original games. It's not to say that we won't break the rules sometimes. We do have some licensed games, for example, in Europe that aren't available here just because of how licensing works.
Right.
In general, the US market, the US development hub will focus on licensed games and we'll carry them over if they're successful.
Okay. So if we wanted to see as well, for example, the German branch of Ravensburger had a new Wolfgang Kramer, Michael Kiesling game, Jubako. Is there any chance we see that in the U.S., or do we have to lobby, or how would we make that happen? Or just
It's funny you mentioned we did get a shipment of that, a surprise shipment of that here in the U.S., so that will be available shortly.
Oh, okay. I did not know that was coming.
Neither did I.
So is there, how does communication work? Are you mostly sort of independent to some degree? The German branch and the US branch? There's other branches of Ravensburger as well. And then you decide to share things, or just this was not something you personally knew about? Obviously somebody did, but
So with Jubako, we knew it was being developed. We do communicate with the development hubs, a lot of early morning meetings with a 9-hour time difference between Seattle and Ravensburg. So we do know what each other are developing. The individual studios kind of make up their mind as to what games we go after. So in Seattle, for example, we'll have product meetings where we sit down with marketing and sales and decide which licenses we're going after. And my boss, Florian Waldenhofer, is the head of global family and strategy games. So he'll kind of develop our line plan for both Germany and for Seattle. So we do have someone with an overall view of what's being developed for the market.
okay. I had a question from someone in chat. Any chance you can get away from Target being your preferred retail partner?
I wouldn't say Target is our preferred retail partner. Marvel Villainous, for example, is available at friendly local game stores and on Amazon.
Okay. So I know some titles are available initially at Target or first at Target. I don't know. Is there a reason for doing so?
Yes. I love friendly local game stores. My husband used to manage one, and I was frustrated by first to markets and mass market exclusives before I started this job as well. But then when I got here, I started to understand the numbers behind it. So when you do a licensed game, you have to sign a contract that requires you to sell a minimum number of games or pay a royalty on a minimum number of games. And when the mass market does 5 to 10 times the business of the entire hobby industry, it's very hard to get away from. Not that we would necessarily want to, because there is a place for mass market as well. So when we do a first to market or an exclusive, the mass market is able to guarantee us a certain number of copies, which allow us to fulfill our contracts and keep doing quality licensed games. If we weren't doing that, if we didn't have, for example, a Target first to market, we might not be able to do that game, and that doesn't benefit anyone. We also often get marketing incentives from the mass market partners, marketing packages that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars that we wouldn't be able to get otherwise. So it kind of gives the game a boost. And while I understand and empathize that it's frustrating not to be able to get it sometimes right away from your friendly local game store, that month, allowing us to build the buzz and sell those copies, allow the game to happen in the first place.
Okay. So a lot of it is a choice of existing here or not existing, or not existing here to begin with.
Correct.
Yes, just based on the cost. Yes. I do not. Yeah, I have no idea what that invoice looks like when you're paying a licensing fee, but I don't imagine it's pleasant. So
depends on the contract.
Depends on the contract. Okay, I would imagine so. Cassidy, anything else you want to mention? The final minute here.
No. Thank you so much, everyone who requested Marvel Villainous. If you want to see something from us, please let us know what that is. We're always listening, and the demands for another edition of Villainous and Marvel Villainous specifically is what led to us being able to create this. So keep being vocal. Let us know what you want to see.
One final question from people. comic villains or movie villains or both? Is there a
Comic villains or movie villains or both?
Yes, for Marvel Villainous. Is it comic only?
And we focused on comic villains who have appeared in the movie for our primary villains, but you will see some comic book villains in the decks and the allies specifically.
Okay. So if people want to request, they can request anybody?
Oh, for requests, yes, you can request anyone.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much,
I can't guarantee
Cassidy.
that we'll be able to produce that, but you can let us know.
No, but there have been many polls for the Disney Villainous characters who people would like to see in the future, and a number of those have appeared in expansions that have been published. So, yes, it definitely does not hurt to ask. And we will talk with Cassidy as well during Gen Con Online. We'll get an overview and play through Hocus Pocus, which will be a bit more straightforward, I guess, in terms of playing on camera. So we get a full overview of the game through. Okay. Thank you very much, Cassidy. Enjoy your day.
Thanks, everybody.
I appreciate you showing up. Bye.